Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by Nathan Solomon of the Podium Finish. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing well. I know you got some college basketball for the next few weeks from either at St. Bonaventure or Cornell or whatever the hell else you do. So overall, I know you've got a busy week. So kind of talk about that.
Yeah, a lot going on here. I think so. We're recording this Friday here, so I think beginning Saturday, I'll be at 5 different games in 6 days, and they're all in different arenas and all in different parts of the state. So be very busy. Looking forward to it though. I mean, they're all for different things too. Like some St. Bonaventure, some Cornell. One's for the radio, one's for the written publication, right? So, lots of different things going on. So looking forward to it though.
Yeah, for sure. And you've also been working on some NASCAR stuff as well.
Yeah, so I did a feature and a interview with Raja Caruth earlier this week. I've got another feature coming out Monday. I'm not going to say who it is. I'm not going to spoil it. But it's a well-known Xfinity Series driver, and we talked here just the other day too. So looking forward to that getting out. And now with break, I have more time to work on TPF content here over the next month. So that's exciting.
Yeah, sounds good. So let's talk about the news that you actually wrote about yesterday, which is now also featured on TPF as well. Of course, that's Hailie Deegan was confirmed to Thor Sport Racing. Of course, Thor Sport confirmed their entire lineup yesterday. Of course, not much change with the other three: Majeski in the 66, Matt Crafton in the 88, Ben Rhodes in the 99. Deegan will be in the 13, obviously taking the place of Christian Eckes, who of course went to MHR in the 19. So, you were on the Ford call yesterday with Hailie Deegan, Allison Thorson, and Mark Rushbrook from Ford. What was your takeaways from yesterday's announcement?
Well, obviously, Thor Sport spent these last couple of years with Toyota, but to make this switch back to Ford, they're really putting all the eggs in one basket here for Hailie Deegan. I mean, she seems like she is kind of the main reason why Thor Sport is making this switch. And obviously with DGR switching to Toyota, Ford kind of knew that they needed a team to kind of step up and make that switch back into Ford to give them that support they need, because obviously they have front row and Zane Smith, the guy that just won the championship, but that's really their only truck series entry funded by Ford Performance. So they knew they needed a couple more entries to really step it up, and they had that relationship with Thor Sport in the past. So they sat down, they met, and immediately Hailie Deegan became the forefront of those conversations. I think Ford Performance, they wanted her to be in very, very competitive equipment. Thor Sport really seemed like they wanted her to come in. So it seemed like a pretty easy decision. They obviously now made that switch here pretty quickly. Mark Rushbrook said it was pretty low stress. I mean, as soon as they sat down, they were, everything looked pretty confident that they were going to be able to get a deal done there. And so now Hailie Deegan making the switch now. And, this is nothing against what DGR was these last couple of years, but Thor Sport has probably definitely more competitive equipment than DGR. And they had some good stuff for sure. But I mean, Thor Sport is the best of the best right now in the Camping World Truck Series. And obviously these first 2 seasons in the Truck Series have maybe been a little bit disappointing for Hailie Deegan, certainly below her standards, but this year is definitely going to be a huge, huge season for her. She has all the resources. She has veteran experience, veteran teammates, a championship winning crew chief and Rich Lucius on the pit box. It's going to be a huge year for her. And a goal definitely has to be to at least make the playoffs and try to see if she can win a race, because this is the year where she has to show that she belongs.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, by the way, you better start getting used to saying the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. I think you said Camping World.
Did I say Camping World? Oh man, I
Yeah.
knew it'd be tough. I know I have to get that ingrained into my head now. But hey, the NASCAR Twitter hasn't changed it yet, so I guess it's still technically Camping World, right?
It is. Of course, that'll change probably on the first of the year. So I know when Raja and I closed out their interview, I know that when he started watching the Truck Series, he always knew it as the Camping World Truck Series. Of course, they took over in 2009. But so it'll be interesting to go back to that. Speaking of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, let's talk about some other news in the Truck Series as well. Carson Hocevar is back at Nice Motorsports. And I just talked, and of course, on this channel, you'll see an interview with Carson Hocevar. Of course, Worldwide Express is going to be on the car for all 23 races. And from the conversations that I've had with when I just had with Carson, it looks like Nice Motorsports is kind of getting they could be having a prime year. This could be a big year, and this could their budget just got a little bit bigger too. What are we expecting out of the 42, you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously not a huge surprise at all that Hosfar is back for another year with Nice Motorsports, and he's really the only guy that we know right now at that camp that's for sure coming back or is for sure confirmed to that team. But obviously, he's kind of their centerpiece right now. He's their guy. He's the guy that they want to be in the mix, competing for championships. Obviously, they've had Ross Chastain doing that in the past, competing for championships, and even this, in 2022, going down and being able to win a race and being very competitive. And it wouldn't surprise me to see Chastain back in one of those trucks a few times. But again, another big year for Hocevar. I mean, this is his third full-time season, I believe, right? So, he had a lot of, opportunities where he easily could have won races last year. But it was really just kind of piecing entire races together. There's a lot of times where he'd be out in front late, and something would happen that would kind of put him out of contention. So he just has to work on, closing some of those races better. That's certainly kind of been his weakness. And he just kind of got to keep his nose clean a little bit too as well. Obviously, there's been some controversy surrounding him a couple of times, like what happened to IRP, what happened at Talladega. So as long as he can kind of stay out of trouble and work on just emphasizing closing out races, I think this is the year where he can finally break through and get to victory lane. I know he just had a lot of bad luck on his side too with the way some of those finishes ended, but definitely important that he closes out some of those races and he turns those into wins, because easily could have had 2 wins last year for sure, but that inability to really close out races and some of that bad luck really prohibited that. But that has to change this year for him. So definitely a huge year for him.
Yeah. So let's since we're still talking about trucks, and maybe that might be the theme of this episode, but let's talk about another team that made some news. A couple weeks ago, GMS Racing confirmed that has all their lineups confirmed. Raja Karuth will be in the number 24 truck for the full-time season in trucks. And you got a chance to talk to Raja this week. What was that like to talk with him about just the opportunities? Because we all know just a few years ago he was just iRacing, and now he's in trucks full time. And what are we going to expect from him, you think?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously, you mentioned that GMS lineup. I mean, obviously Grant Enfinger, Daniel Dye there, those weren't, really surprises at all. But I think kind of the unknown was if there was going to be a third truck, maybe who would be in that truck. And I think all signs really pointed towards Raja Karuth being somewhere in the truck series and driving a Chevrolet somewhere in there. We just didn't exactly know where. We thought maybe KBM could be a possibility. Even MHR could have been a possibility, but here he is. He ends up at GMS, and it's a pretty good equipment. Arguably, right now, at least the top or second best Chevrolet equipment now that KBM's in. So, big chance for him. Obviously, he's really young. He's gonna have his learning curves. He's gonna have times where things aren't always gonna go well for him. But he's just that's just that young age. That's that inexperience. I mean, he didn't start real life racing till 2019. I mean, that's less than 4 years ago, essentially, right? So he still has a ton to learn. And obviously the Camping World Trucks, Craftsman Truck Series.
Okay.
It took me 3 times to get the sponsor right. Now in the Craftsman Truck Series, I mean, that'll be the place where he'll be able to effectively learn and develop. And again, it might take time. I mean, I think that he'll have a chance to go out and compete and contend to win some races and make the playoffs, but it's going to be a big learning year for him. Obviously, the first time that he's going to have a full-time ride at the National Series level, but he's shown a lot of promise, though. I mean, he contended for wins in the ARCA Menard Series almost every single race. Towards the end of the year, had some really good runs with Alpha Prime in the Xfinity Series, so he's certainly shown that he's capable, but now we just has to kind of piece everything together. So I think that maybe we'll see some struggles a little bit at the beginning of the year, but I think maybe towards the end of the year, you're going to start to see Raja really firing at all cylinders. And if he can make the playoffs, which I think is very capable of doing, then anything can really happen for him.
Yeah. Let's kind of talk about another Chevy team a little bit. MHR. We haven't really talked about them that much. When Raja made his announcement, or just after that, McAnally Hillman Racing, or BMR, or others people call it BMR, they made their driver's announcement. Christian Eckes, of course, who was at ThorSport, last year, now jumps to MHR in the 19 truck. Of course, that's the truck that Derek Kraus has been driving the last few years. And then Jake Garcia, of course, who many people, for if you follow short track racing, you may know that name. Of course, he's only 17, so he'll miss Daytona. But of course, that's kind of a new lineup this year. What are we going to expect from there? And of course, what are you surprised about what MHR did there?
Yeah, I'm surprised about the 19 truck. Like, I don't think anybody necessarily expected that that Kraus would be going out and then Christian Eckes would be going in. And I think Eckes going in, I mean, that's kind of a big domino fall to an extent in the truck series. And I think that's really what started to maybe hint that Ford could be making, or excuse me, that Thor Sport could be making that switch back to Ford, because at that time we didn't really know that Eckes was leaving ThorSport. I mean, that announcement kind of just happens like, oh, here's Christian Eckes, and he's driving this truck and switching manufacturers in 2023. So that's obviously that was a big surprise. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I don't think anyone also, realized that Kraus was going to be out. There was really no indication that he was going to be done there, but now Derek Kraus is looking for a ride. Obviously, not sure what's going to happen there. But it's a good get though for MHR to get Christian Eckes. Obviously, he's in the playoffs. Another guy that was really consistent, quietly very consistent with ThorSport, contended to win some races. So really good get for them. And then they have a very young Jake Garcia, a guy that again he's going to need some time. He's going to need to develop a little bit, kind of similar to Rajah Caruth. Doesn't have a ton of experience at the NASCAR level right now, but again has a pretty high ceiling. So it'll take a little bit of time for him. I think we'll see some of his struggles, throughout the season. Once they get to what's the second race?
Vegas.
Vegas. So once they get to Vegas, might see a few struggles for him, but I think he'll work out really well for them, and a year or two down the road, he could certainly be a contending driver for that team.
Where do you think that? And I just thought of another Chevy team to talk about. Then I'll get into Chevrolet overall. You got KBM, which also you have Rev Racing too. Of course, Chase Purdy's going to be driving the Ford truck for KBM full time. The 51 truck will be driven by Jack Wood for about 10 races, and they'll probably have some other drivers in there from Company Xfinity. And plus, you also have the aligned team with KBM. Of course, that's Rev Racing. Nick Sanchez will be in that truck. What are we expecting from those, from the 4 and the 2 and Jack Wood's part-time starts?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the KBM's announcement that was a little surprising, because that's honestly where I thought Rajah would probably go to KBM. So I was definitely a little surprised to see that Chase Purdy was going to be their full-time driver, and then Jack Wood was going to be one of their drivers as well. But big important years to them. They've obviously been a little bit disappointing in their first couple of years here at the NASCAR level. So big years for them to show that they can go out and compete and race here at a high level. But Nick Sanchez, though, I mean, he's been great. I mean, obviously winning the ARCA championship has really shown like no learning curve at all in the Xfinity races he did with Big Machine Racing. I mean, I think he did the last 6 of the last 10 races or whatever for Big Machine, and he was great. I mean, he was running top 10 for them. Again, it was kind of just piecing full races together. That's what he struggled with a little bit, but he had some of the best runs all season in that team has had. So I think he's going to go back to Rev really and hit the ground running. Obviously, it'll be a kind of a new truck team there to an extent. The alignment with KBM will help. Obviously, a lot of manufacturer support there. So he'll be in good stuff right away. And I definitely expect a pretty big year for Nick Sanchez, as he's kind of turned into one of the top prospects right now in NASCAR.
Yeah. So let's kind of preview Chevrolet as a whole. Obviously, as you know, they did not have a good year last year. Compared to the previous few years before that. What do you think? What are you expecting from the Bowtie Brigade in terms of trucks? Because there is going to be a lot of them.
Yeah, exactly. That's the theme. There's more of them, right? And there's a couple good gets there. And I mentioned Christian Eckes. That's a big get. Like seriously, I mean that's a get for Chevrolet that I don't think really many people have talked about so far. I mean, he goes to a team now where he could potentially win some races for them. So that's huge. Obviously, he's shown that he knows how to, that he has been able to win a race. And then obviously KBM going to Chevrolet and bringing Rev Racing with him on board. I mean, that's three very competitive Truck Series entries, and GMS going back to three entries now. So there's more and more competitive entries overall. So like there's more in total, and then all of them like they just seem more competitive too. So I think you're definitely going to see Chevrolet have a bigger year. But everything just, it seems so level right now in the Truck Series. Like it kind of seemed like Ford was a dominant team, or excuse me, Toyota was very, very dominant last year with Four Sport and KBM, but obviously both of those teams have now changed manufacturers, and you look at Tricon Garage as really the main Toyota team right now, and then Thor Sports kind of your main Ford team, and then you got a couple different Chevrolet teams. So it's very even. So I think Chevrolet is going to have a much better year, but it's certainly not going to be easy. I mean, Toyota's putting all their eggs into Tricon Garage right now in the Truck Series. I think they're gonna be, I think, as competitive as KBM was. I mean, because Toyota's going to have all the resources to make them competitive. So I'm pretty high on Taylor and Tanner Gray. So I think they'll go out and have really good years, and they'll be tough to compete with for sure. But I think I think Chevrolet will definitely have a bit of a bounce back year. But I think we'll see a pretty even year across the board, in all honesty.
Plus, you got Corey Heim too over at Tricon Garage, and it'll be interesting to see how he does. And I know a lot of people have him in their early Championship 4 picks there. So yeah, we'll definitely have to see how that goes. And obviously, there's still more we have to look at. You know, Nice Motorsports, we don't know if they're going to have any more trucks. We don't know what Hattori's plans are, so we'll just have to see. A lot of that's going to come in the new year. There could be some more announcements. We at the Halmar Friesen team was of course announced that Stuart Friesen would be back full time again in the 52. So we'll have to see what happens with the 62 truck. So yeah, we'll just still a lot more. We know most of the lineup in trucks. Actually, we know across the board in Xfinity, definitely in the Cup Series, but we'll know a lot more once the new year comes. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode. Nathan, thanks as always for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.